What's up, guys? You're watching Live Fight TCG. Just a quick tournament recap. So my last video was about Death Shadow, and I said I played two small tournaments to like quite mediocre results. But we entered another tournament this last weekend, 23 players. We came second in that, and we won a Scrubland. So pretty good result. I'll just quickly run through the deck. The main deck is the same as the last video, so if you want to hear more in-depth discussion on that, especially about some of the more offbeat choices, you should definitely check that out. So I've got 3 Wastelands, 2 Underground Sea, and 4 Watery Grave. Ben Friedman's got a quite good list on, I don't know if it's a good list, but a good article on Star City right now on the select side, so it's free for anyone to read it. He's only got 3 Grave and 3 Sea, and I don't think that's correct. I think you want all 4 Grave. It's too important to be able to damage yourself against the Plowshares decks. And then we have 8 fetch lands. In the creature package, we have 4 Delver of Secrets, 4 Death Shadow, 4 Street Wraith, and 2 Tombstalker. So again, Tombstalker's not that commonly used. It's seeing some you play in the Arclight Phoenix decks, but not so common in Death Shadow. I talk about this card a lot in the previous video, so you can check that out there. Friedman's list is not playing Delver at the moment. For me, it's a little bit difficult to evaluate that choice because I've only played Delver in Legacy for so long, and I've never played the versions of Shadow in Modern without Delver that are like a little bit more controlling. But in the back of my mind, the arguments that he makes about Friedman, the arguments that he makes about like the fact that your deck has no burn spells, and that makes it sort of not very well equipped to play that kind of razor's edge game where you're like slowly chipping away with a smaller threat and then you burn them out. This deck can't really do that as well, and a lot of games are ended more commonly by the really big threats like the 5/5 and the Shadow. So I can sort of see his argument for not playing Delver, and I think that list has quite a lot of potential. If I was going to try a new list in some practice games, that's definitely what I would check out. But I seem to be doing quite well with my own list right now, so if I was going to play in an important tournament, I'd just play this deck again. 2 Reanimate, 3 Hymn to Tourach. And again, I talk about the main deck Hymn to Tourach in the previous video. 4 Thoughtseize, 1 Fatal Push, 1 Darkblast, 2 Dismember, 4 Ponder, 4 Brainstorm, 4 Force of Will, 4 Daze. So that's the whole main deck. And then the sideboard, so I changed only a couple of cards from the previous video. I've added a 3rd Surgical Extraction alongside the Grafdigger's Cage. So because the proactive aggro plan of Shadow is so strong, you don't have to try to make such a nuanced sideboard. You can afford to just spend more slots on these like Haymaker kind of hate cards, because against the like 50-50 matchups, like your plan A is good enough. You don't have to augment it with like narrow, or not narrow, but like sideboard cards for the fear matchups, or like specific ones for different fear matchups. So you have more space to just play these kind of like hate cards for the like combo or linear decks. So that's why I have 3 Surgical and 1 Cage for 4 total Graveyard hate. And I played against Reanimate twice in the Scrubland tournament, so it definitely paid off. And by that same logic, I'm also playing 3 Diabolic Edicts now, and I noticed that in Friedman's list he's playing 3 Edicts as well. The biggest problem for this deck is probably either Merit Large or True Name. So even though this card looks like a little bit too inefficient for Legacy, when we have removal like Swords to Plowshares, which could basically answer any creature for only 1 mana, this solves a lot of problems for Shadow in the current Legacy metagame. So I think playing 3 is fine. It's pretty good against most of the fear decks, just as like a Doomblade kind of spell. So especially when you have Force of Wills to board out. So yeah, 3 Edicts, I was pretty happy with that. And we still have 2 Bomb and 2 Liliana. Friedman's more controlling list has 3 of each of these in the 75. He has 2 Liliana in the board and 1 main, and then he plays 3 Bomb in the board as well. So I'm not sure if you need 3 Bomb. Maybe that's overkill. And then same deal, like for my more aggressive version, I don't think I want to play Liliana main deck. And then 3 in the 75 is maybe a little bit too many, but as I said in the previous video, I think 2 Liliana is pretty essential, and I don't think I'd go less than 2 Bomb either. Then the last few cards, 1 Marsh Casualties. This could also be Deluge, but I think Casualties is good enough. Especially in the places we really want the board wipe, like against elves and opposing True Names and stuff like that. Casualties seems perfectly fine, but I could see arguments for playing Deluge instead. I'm still playing 1 Bitterblossom. I've literally never drawn this card, which probably isn't that surprising because it's just a sideboard one-of, but I could definitely see the arguments people make against this card, because a lot of the time it's difficult to evaluate, like, are you supposed to be hyper damaging yourself to enable your Death Shadows, or preserve your life total to make your Bitterblossom better, especially in draws where like you don't have either of those effects in your hand yet, and you have to sort of evaluate like which one you're trying to go for. So I think having an extra slot that's like a threat versus control decks is probably necessary. So maybe you're supposed to play like the 3rd Liliana instead, or I could even consider playing like something really offbeat. Some people play Infernal Contract, which is quite an interesting idea, or even something like, if you think triple black mana is acceptable, even like Underworld Dreams maybe as like a black Sulfuric Vortex, especially because all of the control decks right now, especially Miracles, are on their like accumulated knowledge train, and they just have so much air and so many cantrips. So yeah, who knows, maybe Underworld Dreams could be the next Legacy All-Star, but I'm going to keep playing Bitterblossom for now, just because I don't really have too much practice with it, and I just want more data on like how good it is or isn't. And then the last 2 cards are 2 counters, so I have 1 Spell Pierce, 1 Flusterstorm. So there's quite a few removal spells in the main deck, and against the creatureless combo decks, like Storm for example, a lot of these other sideboard cards aren't that great. So you want to have some more things you can board in against those decks. I like Spell Pierce because you can also board it in against decks with like Blood Moon and Transfer, those kind of decks. Whereas Flusterstorm doesn't really do anything, but Flusterstorm is maybe slightly better against fear decks like Grixis Control, or against some other combo decks like Show and Tell. Flusterstorm can be better, but you could even play like 2 Spell Pierce instead of 1 Flusterstorm, or 1 Spell Pierce and maybe like 1 Jurius or something. I think that would be fine as well if you want to go down that route. You just want to make sure you have enough cards in your sideboard so you can board your removal out. Yeah, so that's the deck. Hope you guys like that. I definitely can vouch for the strength of it if you want to play it in your own tournament coming up. Just see if I can go over the matchups in case you're wondering. So round 1 was against Black Red Reanimator, which I won 2-0. Round 2 I played against Red Black Reanimator again, and he turn 1 Gristlebrand me on the play in game 1, round 1, but then Game 2 and 3 was pretty smooth sailing after that. It's a pretty easy matchup for this deck. You just have so much disruption, especially when you have 4 graveyard hate cards in your sideboard. So it's a pretty miserable matchup to play, but I don't think I'd be sad to play against it. Then round 3, mono red sneak attack. The mono red decks are like supposed to give Shadow quite a bit of trouble. I think this sneak attack version is like considerably worse, because it doesn't have cards like Ensnaring Bridge that give this deck a lot of problems. And then when you sneak attack like a Emrakul or a Inferno Titan, or you have Through the Breach to do the same thing, like that's actually quite vulnerable to a Diabolic Edict. So you have a lot of ways to interact with their combo. You just have to make sure you don't get blown up by Chalice, and then that's basically what you have to worry about. So I did lose 0-2 to this, but I think he got quite lucky, or I had some bad draws, whatever. I mean, I'd have to test the matchup a bit more, but I don't think I'd be sad to play against this. Round 4, Grixis Control. I won 2-1. Yeah, I can't remember anything too interesting that happened here. And then I ID'd round 5, which was against Dredge, I think. Then into the top 8, played against Goblins in the quarterfinals. So it was Goblins with a white splash for Thalia, and he won game 1, where he just had a draw of like turn 2 Power Driver, turn 3 Warchief, turn 4 Matron into Power Driver, and like my triple Delver draw just couldn't race it. And then game 2, I boarded all my Forcibles out except for 1. And then the turn he was about to die, he tried to resolve it in Snaring Bridge, and I had my 1 copy of Force of Will still in my hand. So I very luckily won that game, because I can't beat a resolve in Snaring Bridge. And then in game 3, he put Kevin on Soldier so he could play Thalia, which was like potentially very scary, because I only had 1 land out at that point. But then I drew a second land, and then he tried to cast Ringleader. So with the 2 lands with his Ringleader on the stack, I dismembered his Thalia and then Daze his Ringleader. And from there, like a Shadow just took it down. So I ended this game at 2 life. So I remember he had 1 turn to top deck like a Matron for Tarfire or like Warchief or something, because I had nothing to stop whatever he drew. But I knew he had nothing in hand, and he didn't get there, so that was the match. And then the top 4 against Grixis Delver, I remember I played really badly in this matchup. Like I put cards on top to like hide them with Brainstorm, but then I realized that if I wanted to like play them more, I would have had to fetch and like shuffle away the second one, and I made some pretty questionable Thoughtseizes. Like I can't quite justify in hindsight. But yeah, so we came out on top in this one just, and then in the finals I lost to Esper. So game 1 he just like true named plus Batterskull, but I couldn't really do anything. Game 2 I had a really interesting Thoughtseize decision where I wanted to reanimate Street Wraith after the Thoughtseize resolved, and he had Bitterblossom, Strix, and Edict as the spells. So like I wasn't sure, because he would have had to play a Swamp to play the Bitterblossom and the Strix, so my Wraith would have been unblockable. So I thought about taking the Edict, but that would have, the Reanimate plus the Street Wraith and everything would have probably put me at like definitely less than 10 life, maybe around like 6 or 7, and there was no way I could race if I did that. So then I thought, so if I'm not, that means I'm not taking the Edict, so I have to take either Bitterblossom or Strix, and like Strix is going to block one thing and I can deal with it with removal, but like Bitterblossom can basically block forever and I have no removal for that. So in the end, I made him discard Bitterblossom, and then I followed that up with the Street Wraith Reanimate. So then he edicted that. Then I untap, play another Thoughtseize, take away the Strix, so he has like nothing right now. And I have Shadow in my hand, so next turn I can Shadow because I had to tap out, because I like cantripped into the Thoughtseize, so I had to tap out to play it. And I didn't have any removal for the Strix, so I couldn't play Shadow. And then he top decked his own Thoughtseize, and Thoughtseize my Shadow. Right now, we both have like nothing, but I'm on like 2 life. And he just top decked a True Name. And I didn't have an Edict, so I lost. So that was the finals. So he got a Tropical, and I got the Scrubland. But yeah, pretty fun event. I was gonna maybe talk a bit more about like the state of Legacy and like the state of organized play, but I don't want it. I haven't really written a big script for that, and I don't want it to get too rambly. So what I will say is this: just like support your local tournaments. Try and like rally your friends together and turn up with a big bunch. If we had one more person for this tournament, the prize would have gone like up a level, and I would have got the Tropical Island for coming second. So make sure you try and get the biggest turnout you can get, because at the end of the day, like with no announcement for like what's replacing PPTQs, and like so much resources seem to be being diverted to the MPL and the arena stuff. So if Wizards isn't gonna support paper tournaments so much, then the local TOs have to pick up the slack a bit, but then at the same time, us as the community have to help them do that. So make sure you enter all your events near you, and feel free to play my Death Shadow list if you want to do that. I guess that's all for today. This is Li-Fi TCG signing out.